In today's video, we're going to be going over a major accumulation or potential accumulation range for Bitcoin if it were to play out a greater pullback. So if you've been following on this channel for the past couple of weeks, we've been suggesting, or we have been looking at, more importantly, setups that do suggest that there is a higher statistical probability that Bitcoin moves to the upside here than the downside. However, in today's video, I want to explore the other side of that. As always, going to have, contingency plans, what to do if what you were not expecting comes to fruition. Like fucking duh, right? Typically I have a plan A, plan B, right? Or maybe even more than that. But in today's video, I want to be exploring the other side of that, and then also kind of fitting it into the overall model for us, as I do think that we're going to start to really have clarity on the situation this week. And in fact, with last night's closure, things start to really, come into view as well. Anyways, before we get into that, I should also let you know that you can get a nice sale price, because we have a nice Memorial Day sale going on right now for 20% off of any one of the programs or products or services that we do have in the links in the description below. What else? You can even actually get the Krown VMP indicator for 1 month free if you use that same code. Did I give you the code? The code is abundance. You should already know that. You should manifest it. Abundance in all capitals, I should say as well. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump right into this one, and we're going to start off with one of our old friends, the Pi Cycle high and low indicator. And this one has actually been incredibly accurate in getting very, very close to, if not the exact all-time high for Bitcoin, and very, very close to the cycle lows as well in all prior cycles. But that's actually not what we're going to be using it for today's particular video. What I want to show you is a relationship that has been consistent since the dawn of time for Bitcoin. And what we're going to be going over here is essentially the first rally after Bitcoin has put in its cycle low. And we're going to analyze that because that has, well, a lot of similarities to what we're looking at as of current moment, and plays into, the title of this video, which would be the major opportunity long term if it were to happen. So first things first, here's 2011 cycle low. Bitcoin then rallies up naturally and test that white moving average. That's the long moving average on this particular indicator. And the first test is rejected. Bitcoin comes back down to the yellow and green moving averages, which is just a simple moving average, and then also an exponential moving average, shorter periods, obviously, and kind of bases there for a while. And well, from there, major mass move to the upside, finally breaking that white moving average and going on for several X's from that area. But I want to call specific attention to this area right here, where Bitcoin puts in a little bit of time between that yellow and green moving average. That would be the accumulation zone. And in hindsight, it was a phenomenal zone to be buying in long term. Even same thing over here, actually, where it does briefly lose the white moving average, corrects in between these two, in between the yellow and green, boom, same thing, reaccumulates, and upwards and onwards we go for another 800, 900% move. Not bad over the course of 3 months. Then same thing over here in the next cycle low from 2015, January. And from there, Bitcoin puts in a nice little rally. First test to the white moving average right here, rejected. Bitcoin comes down to the yellow and green, puts in some time, rallies again, rejected, comes back down to the yellow and green, puts in some time, and then from there, blasts upwards and onwards. But again, major opportunities were had. Motherfucker, I done goofed. Apologies. But major opportunities were had on any of these moves down, which, by the way, this is a weekly time frame right here. So this is like multiple months in between these two moving averages. But long term, a year and a half out, these were phenomenal opportunities. Anyway, same thing over here in 2019. Bitcoin puts in the cycle low, December 2018. And then, what do you know, has a major rally up here. Rejects from the white moving average first test, comes down between the yellow and green, does try to accumulate there. However, as you already know, there was a global pandemic, maybe a black swan, you might call that, in the form of 2020 Rona, and things actually did come, significantly further down to the red moving average. But still, if you were to just kind of imagine, if you were to manifest that price action away and just act as if, that whole situation didn't happen, kind of even just draw a line regression through this nearly year of price action here, and that was all between these two moving averages, which were, again, great long-term opportunities before a major massive move to the upside. Anyways, why am I bringing this up? Because right now, well, not right now, but over the past few months, Bitcoin did get that first test into the white moving average and did reject from it. And since then, we have seen the move down to the green moving average low. So what does that suggest? It suggests that if you are the most bullish that you can be, then we would expect that that is already the low, barring any sort of black swan. However, if Bitcoin were to take a step down in its current consolidation and trade anywhere between that yellow and green moving average, that would be likely, very likely, a good long-term opportunity. And when I say long-term opportunity, we're talking like a year, something like that out. And to put numbers on that particular, you might call it an accumulation range, the top side of it would be about 63,600, and the bottom side, as of current, would be just below $59,000. Now, keep in mind that these also will rise up with each and every passing week. So the more that Bitcoin goes sideways here, the more that range will naturally come rise up. But if Bitcoin, again, were to take a step down here, that's essentially what I'd be looking for some, potentially very long-term positions. Anyways, this is going to play into our analysis a little bit later. It doesn't change anything thus far that we've been looking at over the past couple weeks. But like I said, I wanted to use today's video to explore, a different scenario. I mean, what day is it? It's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Let me just double check. It is Wednesday. Nice one. So my point is it's always good to have a plan B if what you were at least not expecting does come to fruition. Anyways, we'll fit that into the model in a moment here, or in a couple minutes here. But first things first, I want to go over the daily statistics because this is also going to play a great role. So once again, I am just measuring the dates between the beginning of 2024 till current. And by the way, we're actually going to be offering up this script I think relatively soon. Just spoke with Caretaker about it, and we're actually really excited about it because there's like a whole suite of price statistics that we're going to build off of this, which is really fucking cool. Anyways, Wednesday, if we just look at the closures, beginning again from the beginning of 2024 till current, it's been more or less a coin flip as to whether it closes positively or negatively. Slight edge towards the positive side at just over 52.25% of all Wednesdays closing positively. But what stands out here and what is very relevant is that Wednesday is by far, by a very large margin, the greatest average gaining day when it does close positively. And when it does close negatively, it's I guess more like par for the course. But on the positive closing days, does return an average of 4%. Most other days are 2% or less. The only other day that comes even close is Monday, which is 379. But also you have your biggest. No, Wednesday has the biggest gain at almost 10% that we did see year to date. Anyways, let's come up with a range from this because this actually has been working incredibly well, especially the last few days. And I expect that as long as Bitcoin is consolidating generally, these will continue to work out very, very well. Although I would again caution that it's not always gonna be like that. Of course, these are averages. There's going to be variance in there. But if we were to take the downside of this, we'd shave off about 2.25%, which is actually what yesterday did play out pretty damn well too. If Bitcoin were to do the same thing here, play out towards the average of the downside of the range, it would be just below $67,000, a little bit below yesterday's wick low actually. And if it were to take the upside of this, then the average gain is about 4%, and that'd put Bitcoin basically around May highs, which is just above $71,000. Now, this is very interesting to me because it does provide a little bit of clarity on the bigger situation, which is related to this setup here. This setup right here. The 12-hour setup that we called out on Saturday. So this 12-hour setup is a very simplistic setup. It is simply just longing when there's an uptrend on the 12-hour time frame, plus extreme lows on the VMP, in this case below 10 percentile or more, and then also the 3-day time frame also has to have an uptrend. And if that happens, then we have these statistics here as relevant. Whoops, let's actually go to a more long-running chart. The statistics are actually a little bit less as good on a per trade basis, but better data overall. Anyways, at about 55.5%. Or sorry, 55% hit rate here. So slight edge in terms of, of this playing out, in this case, to the upside. And as we've gone over before, the performance summary, the average winning trade is just under 15%, and the average losing trade is about 8.25%, or a little bit above 8.25%. So If this one did fire off around 69,000 bucks, pretty much where price action's, very close to as of right now, and it is going to be a winner, we would expect it's going to start that upside move like very soon. Because remember, or maybe you don't remember, but the average amount of bars in winning trades is 14, and the average amount of bars in losing trades is actually 8. So on a 12-hour time frame, that's 4 days versus 7 days basically, and we're actually already, I think, more than 4 days from this open. Yeah, actually today is 8 bars, so this would be the average for the losing days. But basically, if this one is going to play out to the upside, we would expect it to start an upside move like sooner rather than later at this point. And I'd expect before the end of this week, basically. And that would obviously become a lot more reasonable to expect if you do see a move back above, 71,000 bucks, especially. So if this one is going to play out, yeah, I would expect that Wednesday's a good day for this one to start. Just looking at the data over here doesn't mean it has to be like that, but just using that is more my opinion there. Anyways, actually there's the code. There's good. Forgot to talk about that a little bit more. By the way, I put out a video yesterday on a 30-minute time frame trading strategy that does use the quant automation services. You can also just use it without it as well. But I think that's a really good insight as to how these tools work if you're interested in getting these sort of automated tools for yourself that you can back test your strategies, and of course actually automate execution as well. So that video will be there for you from yesterday. Anyways, back into this one right here. Yeah, I would say if you don't see this move really start by today or tomorrow, probably we're going to see the downside of this one play out. And at that point, you got to be looking at this chart over here, and well, the top side of this range actually correlates incredibly well with the failure of this one as well, which would be a move down below 63,600. Now, if we are looking at Bybit's history here, which only records from 2018 to current, the statistics are a little bit more in favor of an upside resolution at 65.5% of these playing out, which would obviously imply upside. So that would be a little bit better. But hey, it's still about, I don't know, 35.5% probability that we do see 63,600. So that'd be the probabilities. If you're looking at more recent data, 63,600, about 35%, and deep into the 70,000s would be 65.5%. So yeah. Anyways, my point from there is also going to be extrapolated onto the 5-day time frame, which closes tonight. This setup is still very much it's not valid because it's not validated, as we don't have the setup like firing off as of this exact moment, but it is still very much there. And in this case, we can see 5-day BBWP representing volatility is at extreme lows. And as of right now, the 5-day stochastic oscillator is positioned to the upside and will continue the upside, assuming today closes above 65,750, or you could just say 66,000 bucks. That'd also be another pretty obvious line in the sand that if Bitcoin were to close below there, 66, probably going to see the downside of this play out first, at least back down somewhere between these two moving averages here in the following 5 to 10 days. Again, as long as this is positioned to the upside, I am more biased towards an upside resolution. It's also statistically more likely based off of this setup over here, as well as a few other setups that we've gone over here too. But if it fails to take a leg up relatively soon, I would say, yeah, get ready for another sweep, kind of around the lows, and probably an opportunity long term. So yes, it'll be very enlightening to see where this next 5-day pivot comes in around after this closure tonight. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. If the pivot goes, or stays anywhere below current price action, like well below 68,000 bucks, especially if the pivot moves down, I'd say that'd be another good indication that Bitcoin's probably going to take the upside resolution of this. You're probably looking at a move into the deep $70,000 territory in June. But if you start to see it fail today, then I think that's I think that's rather obvious what would happen from there. Anyways, I think that's probably a good place for me to be leaving off on today's video. A little bit of a different one, but on a slow Wednesday, I think it's good to kind of explore other ideas. And tomorrow, I don't know, what are we going to do tomorrow? Actually, maybe a live stream tomorrow, in fact. So, and things right there. As always, want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and keep your eyes on those closures tonight, because it's probably really going to drive where things actually go. But for right now, still favoring the upside based off of last night's closures. Bulas continue to hold the line, and we'll leave it right there. We'll come back at it tomorrow and see where this next 5 day comes in around. All right, take care, much love, and see you hopefully Thursday.